Hello, I'm Jay, owner of Volunteer Audio. We are blessed to get to work on a ton of beautiful Harleys. And behind me is a 2021 Road Glide CVO. It's bronze armor and it is immaculate. Tomorrow I'll be shooting a film series on how to upgrade the HD audio by Rockford. But today I wanted to take a few minutes, show you the bike, go over some things that have already been upgraded by the owner, and I want to do a full review of the HD audio by Rockford. I want to tell you more about the system. A lot of you are familiar with Boom Audio, Boom 1, Boom 2. This is the new pinnacle from Harley, and we're already having people reach out wanting it upgraded further. They're still not quite happy with what Harley has to offer. So hang out as we go over all the things about this system, where it clips, what kind of EQ's in it, and the things you could do to make your system even better. All right, so check this bike out. So Mike brought this from Nashville, Tennessee to us here at Volunteer Audio. We're about a 2.5 hour ride for him, but next week he's moving to Maine. And he wanted to make sure before he went to Maine that he got his audio upgraded. He's a subscriber to our channel. He watches our videos. He knows how particular we are. And as you can tell, he is super particular as well. Beautiful bike, and I want to talk about this CVO. So this is what they call bronze armor. I love the color. And if you notice, he's already upgraded the exhaust. He's got a 2-into-1 that the patina on it looks bronze. So the exhaust looks really, really sweet. I talked to him about the bike because we get so many through here and they're all so different. This started life with the standard 117 that comes into CVO, but he's already done a stage 2 engine build. It has the iRide system from Thundermax, so that's the active air ride suspension. So as you change loads, it automatically self-adjusts, and the height changes depending on speed. So really, really cool. You fire it up and you'll notice he's got the Dakota digital gauges already upgraded in it. I mean, you buy this CVO and it's beautiful and it seems to have every option, and you know, we can always find more that we want to do to it. So let's talk about the audio system though. So factory in 21, we had this option. It's called HD Audio by Rockford. Previously, we would have had Boom Stage 1 and most CVOs with a tour pack, or Boom 2 if you had the lid speakers. So we've done previous videos. We pretty extensively went over the Boom 2 system, the problems with it, the inherent issues with upgrading it. And this one seems to be a little simpler to do some future upgrades. We're going to go ahead and take our RTA out here in a few minutes, and I'm going to measure the signal going to each speaker so we can see what kind of signal we have if later you just want to do a speaker upgrade. I'm also going to go over some of the solutions we've already developed. This isn't our first HD audio by Rockford bike that we've done. About 6 months ago, I did one for another guy and mapped out and made a plug-and-play harness system for these. And we'll be introducing you to that in our video. I'm going to get my DD1 out. We're going to run some test tracks through it. And we're going to see just how the gains are set from the factory and see how clean they are, at what volume it's clipping. Because the big problem is most of the time, these 5x7 speakers end up blowing in the back. On Boom 2, that was because we had just way too much bass sent to them. And we're going to go ahead and, like I say, with the RTA, we're going to run a pink noise track through it. We're going to measure that to see if we have those same EQ problems. Now, anytime you have a Harley installed audio system, and this is not the Rockford Fosgate system you would buy from an independent shop. This is the HD Audio by Rockford. It is an amplifier that is sealed. There are no gain adjustments, there's no EQ adjustments, high pass filters, low pass filters. There's nothing you can do when you flash the stock radio. It sets all of these things in the amplifier. What that means is what you've got is what you got. There's nothing that we can do to change it other than change speakers, change amps. And I'm going to start by letting you know what the baseline is, and we're going to see just how it compares to most other audio systems. Because so far I'm getting a lot of calls. People have bought these bikes. They sound great on the showroom floor, and this thing's got pretty good bass. It's got crisp highs, but it just doesn't go loud enough. It's still using a full range type speaker, and so therefore the bass gets distorted and the volume's just not quite there. So hang out as we go over each part and get a little bit more technical into it. All right, just to prepare for our testing, I'm going to go ahead and remove the front speaker grill. It's going to be removed just like the previous systems that have the other style grill. I will tell you, I do like the look of these factory Harley grills with the Rockford system. It's a much better looking grill than the older plastic ones. You'll also notice there is no tweeter or anything mounted in the grill, so if you do an upgrade, you can reuse these. And we're probably going to do something as far as relogoing the bottom of these. And I believe we're doing Hertz on this one, so we'll relogo it to Hertz. So I'm going to pull this speaker out. Let's take one of the rear grills out and go ahead and get it ready too, so we can hook our meter up and read all the different settings on it. So I'm going to go ahead and remove one of the front speakers as well. This way we've got access to connect up our RTA and our DD1. That's going to allow us to see how much distortion we have and if the amp clips, as well as just what frequencies we're sending to these drivers. See if there's any high pass filters in place, you know, because it's one of those things. Let's say you wanted to get some more bass and you buy a speaker that's capable of handling more bass, but they've got a filter blocking that bass from playing. It's not really going to do you any good. See if you can take these out without removing the fairing. Normally you can. Yeah, just got to twist it just right. So it seems to be the normal color code and wiring terminals that we normally see, in the sense that the negative is the large black post and the positive is the small white one. All right, so I've got this speaker out, and I just want to take a second. I wanted to compare it to a Boom Stage 2 speaker. So a lot of people don't realize that Rockford Fosgate built a lot of the Boom audio components. Now, normally the amps were made by Harman, but the speakers were made by Rockford. And if you take a Boom Stage 1 speaker out of your bike, most of the time, right between the terminals, you'll see that same little Rockford Fosgate logo that's on the back of this speaker. But in this case, I wanted you to look, the older Boom 2 speakers had this almost like a Nomex or some sort of carbon fiber cone. They also had a very small neodymium magnet on the back. Now, they were pretty prone to get hot, and a lot of times you would see failure and it would look melted around where this magnet went through because it wasn't quite big enough. So it looks like they did beef up the back of this speaker, so the magnet's a little larger. We do have an aluminum heat sink around the back of it, and it does look quite a bit better than the Boom 2 speaker. But keep in mind, the Boom 2 would have had another grill in front of it that would have had a mid and a tweeter, would have looked very similar. And I know the Boom 2 amp was about 75 watts times 4, where this new Rockford amp is supposed to be 100 watts by 4. It does say made in China on it, but so did the old one. They do not have the impedance mark, so again, I'll measure that and I'll let you know what the impedance of these are. They're probably 2 ohm, that's what Harley normally does. But again, I want to make sure you know, Boom 2 speakers, you probably didn't know this, but most of the time were made by Rockford. And so many people, I think, personally, my opinion is they were upset. And it got to where Boom 2 wasn't as impressive and it had been around a while. And so coming out with a Rockford branded speaker was good for the brand. It was good for Harley, so it looked like a change up. And it sounds very similar to Boom 2 in my opinion. But we'll figure all that out here in a minute as we go through and look at the rest of our results from this. But again, I just wanted you to see it up close and in person, and let's get to testing. All right, so I've been doing some testing, and I want to take a minute and go over what we've done and how we've done it. So I've got an audio-controlled DM-RTA. It just allows me to have an RTA on my laptop. It's easy to show you. I've got a bunch of different RTAs, but this one works really well for videoing. Soon I'm going to swap over to my BitTune now that they've added its RTA feature, so I can show you some things that it does. But for right now, I'm still using the DM-RTA. It's hooked to the front speaker on the bike currently. And I just took readings with pink noise, which sounds like static, from the factory radio. Everything in the radio set flat. And I took a reading at 3 dots from full volume while the bike's not running and running. And I want to share with you what we've got going on. Now, I measured the front and the rear speakers. So real quickly, here's what we came up with. So I stored them in my computer. And that's pretty cool because you can store what they call memories. So I want to recall these memories. If we go to the rear speaker not running, we actually gain from 160 hertz to 80 hertz. That's from mid bass to getting into some lower bass. It has actually got an increase of 3, 6, 9, over 10 decibel that the bass has been increased while the bike's not running. And that really starts about 160 to 125 hertz and is increased by 10 dB to 80 hertz. We are about 4 dB higher from our kind of baseline midline up to the 100 hertz or 63 hertz range. So huge boost at 80 hertz, kind of falls off on both sides of it. it looks to be about a 6 dB drop to the next frequency. Maybe it's a 12 dB slope, but they definitely have a bass boost at 80 hertz while on this is the rear speaker while the bike's not running. Now, if I go to the memories here and I bring up number 2, which is while it was running, you see that they actually lowered the bass. So you're sitting there and the bike sounds good and it's really full sounding. And then you start the bike up and you go, where did the bass go? Well, what happened was they actually lowered the bass by, and the increase we have now is about 4.5 decibel. So 5.5 to 6 dB drop in bass on the same speaker at the same volume, same settings in the radio. All we did was start the bike. So a lot of times we talk about, will a DSP work to fix our input signal to our amplifier? Well, is it changing when you start your bike up? If when you start your bike, the signal from the radio is changing, all your DSP settings just got messed up. So now you're going to have to go back and reset them all up for it running. That's why we pick specific flashes, and we always start with a baseline of knowing that we have the correct flash in the radio. We use the 6 speaker 2 amp flash. It's a Boom 1 flash, and we've already done this same test. It doesn't change while it's running. It attenuates our signal down. It does a lot of great things we need. It turns on the rear speakers. It flattens out our EQ, and it does not change while running like this HD audio by Rockford flash does. And we knew the Rockford flash changed while running and that the rear speakers are different than the front. So let's go to our memories for our front speaker. So I'm going to go and I recalled memory 3. That is our front speaker, 3 dots from full volume, flat EQ without the bike running. And what we're going to see is we've got a little dip around 2.5 kilohertz, 2.5 kilohertz. We have comes back up around 10K. So we got this little dip there in the very upper vocal range, kind of into the beginning of treble. And then we also have from 160 hertz to 80 hertz. If I look at my scale here, I've got 3, 6, almost an 8 decibel jump on the bass again. Now this is not running, this is sitting still. And I'm sure they're expecting you not to be playing it at wide open volumes while the engine's not running, so they're giving you more bass that sounds more full. But you're at the dealership listening to this new CVO's audio system, and they're telling you, man, this will sound great on your bike. You need to put the HD audio by Rockford in your Street Glide or your Road Glide. We can upgrade it here at the dealership. They're going to give you that spill. They're going to let you hear one of these. Understand, when you start the bike up, all that changes, and riding down the road, it does not sound like it did sitting there. I got proof of it right here on the computer. We're showing you those on the screen. So if we start the bike up, let's go to recall memory number 4. We're going to see that that bass is not increased nearly as much. And from 160 hertz to 80 hertz, we have probably about a 5 dB gain now. We still have too much bass. With these settings at high volumes while riding, it's going to sound distorted. When it starts sounding distorted and fuzzy and you can't hear it clearly, normally we quit turning it up. If you don't quit turning it up, you're going to blow your speakers. But I've just documented all 4 of these things for you so you understand what you're getting when you get a factory audio system. Nobody can fix this either. You can't flash the radio to a different EQ curve and correct this issue. As soon as you flash it to anything else, this Rockford amp is going to cut off. It's not going to work at all. So I wanted to show you this. Now we're going to get our DD1 up. Let's hook it up and see how clean the amp is, and at least see if we have clean output. Because I really think this signal could be usable. Some of those scenarios are maybe you blow this speaker, the factory speaker, and you want something that will handle that bass. We'll have to go a heavier duty speaker. Something like the Hertz SX165 Neos, or even our Precision Power speakers, or the Infinity Kappa Perfects. They're going to have little capacitors on the speaker protecting them from the bass so they don't blow up. Second to that, we could easily modify, like we're going to do when we do this upgrade. We could cut this clamshell, this turtle shell looking thing, off the back of the speaker, put a 6x9 adapter. Now we can put a 6x9 woofer in the rear. It's going to handle more of that bass. It's also going to sound better because it's going to be able to give you some more of that bass that the 5x7 just distorted from. So I can definitely see in the future as these blow out, we're going to be able to put better speakers. If the budget doesn't allow for amp replacement, we should be able to put speakers with crossovers and make it usable. Downside is it's only a 400 watt amp. So still yet, if you want more volume, the amplifier is going to be greatly needed, whether it be the Hertz 600 watt amp or the Precision Power 800 watt amp. we're getting substantially a lot more power to our speaker, so it's going to stay clear at those high volumes. So let's get the DD1 on it and let's see how clean the signal is on this unit. All right, so I've got my DD1 connected to the output of this HD audio by Rockford system. I'm playing a 1 kilohertz negative 5 dB tone. Now, if you wanted to test the actual cleanness of the signal all the way to full volume, a 0 dB track would normally be used on the input of the amp. Now, if we were setting the amp, we would use a negative 5 dB track. All right, so music is dynamic. And because music is dynamic, we don't want to set it at a 0 dB or you won't have enough volume. So let's test this factory system with a negative 5 dB 1 kilohertz tone and see just how loud it goes before our red light illuminates. Now, most of the time these radios go really close to full volume. So let's see how the amp is set to. Now this is going to be loud and annoying, but I want you to hear what a test tone's like. With our test tone, we can go to 1 dot from full volume with the stock amplifier and consider to be what I would think clean without blowing your speakers. That does mean if you have the HD audio by Rockford system and you go to full volume, you're probably going to blow something up. It's probably going to be a tweeter. Let's check our rear speakers and see if we get the same reading on it. All right, so we're connected to the rear, so let's do that same test. Maybe we're not connected. I'm not getting, okay. We're not getting the signal. All right, now we have it. All right, again, 1 dot from full volume, so it's pretty safe to say don't go to full volume. You're probably going to blow something up. We are using a USB input with a flash drive. We do find USB is the strongest input source on one of these radios, stronger than Bluetooth. So we got all that done. I guess the next step is maybe we need to listen to it, see what it sounds like so we get a good baseline before we see what our upgrade later sounds like. All right, so I put our speakers back in. I've got our bike here going. We'll play some copyright-free music. I know everybody hates it, but I think this is good. It's a little classical tune, so it lets you hear a little bit of instruments, some bass. And, you know, normally, I'm pretty impressed with these systems. The first Boom 2 bike I listened to that didn't have blown speakers, I was like, can I really make this that much better? You know, sitting here in the garage. So as we turn it up, though, you're going to realize it's not quite as loud as the systems we build. It's not as clear. And what kind of tricks you is all the extra bass, because they make them sound really bassy and really full while you're sitting here. So let's turn on some music. I'm going to let you hear it. I don't think it's going to sound bad. I think you might even be impressed with it. But it will sound even better after we do our upgrade. I just want to get you that bass line. So let's listen. So like I said, it's a super efficient factory speaker. It's actually a plastic cone. There's not much weight to it. So very, very quickly, it seems like it gets that bass note out. It's not very controlled. You hear a lot of flutter. You hear a lot of distortion around the edges of it. But it's enough to make you think sitting there at the dealership, man, this is going to sound good on my bike. Then you take it down the road, and it's not quite loud enough. But good bass line. Now, I'm glad you watched this video. Glad you hung out and let us show you all the ins and outs of the system, this Rockford Fosgate HD audio by Rockford Fosgate system that's on 21 and newer Harleys. Now they're doing retrofit kits. You can do a 14, 15, 16, and so on. I really like some things about it. I think that they did a better job on the wiring design. I like the idea that it's not bi-amped. I like the idea that it's a single amplifier in the bag. I think I would rather have it in the front so you didn't lose any bag space at all. But it's better than the 3 amps that would be on a Boom Stage 2 or even the 2 amp setup on this same speaker design. I like the 3-way speakers. They fit well. They are neo magnets. They come in and out pretty easy. I do think they should have went to a 6x9. I mean, come on, Rockford. It's been 7 years now since the Boom 1 and Boom 2 systems on the 14-iners came out, and nobody's been happy with the 5x7s. We all want to go to that little bit more bass, and you need that 6x9 to really carry that bass at speed. But much better than the Boom 2 in design. It's very similar in sound, very similar in EQ curve, and I think we're going to see many, many people blow speakers, even though it's been rebadged now as Rockford Fosgate instead of Boom Audio. But again, I'm James from Volunteer Audio. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching all our videos. The next video that we post after this is going to be a complete step-by-step build on this bike, and I'm going to let you see everything we do. We're converting the rear to 6x9s. We're going to put the Hertz Neo 6.5s in the front, Hertz Neo SX690 6x9s in the back. We're going to do our one 600-watt Hertz amp, so 200 more watts. It's actually CEA rated, so it's extremely clean, real wattage. We're going to mount that up front so we gain our whole bag space back. I think we're going to have a significant improvement in the overall volume and clarity of this system. So please watch the next video. Thank you for watching this video. Please like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, share this with your friends, and now you're an expert on HD audio by Rockford. Thank you, and God bless.